Welcome to the Indiana 4-H Clover Call podcast, where our goal is to share information about the people and programs that make the Indiana 4-H Youth Development Program such an important part of our communities. We welcome youth and adult 4-H volunteers, 4-H youth and their families, extension professionals, and any others who are interested in providing positive opportunities for youth. We thank you for joining us for this episode, which begins now. Welcome everyone to this month's edition of the Indiana 4-H Clover Call. My name is Steve McKinley, 4-H Extension Specialist on Purdue's campus, working in the areas of leadership and volunteerism. And with me today is...
Hi, I'm Kathleen Bohde. I am the Hamilton County 4-H Youth Development Extension Educator. And we are currently on a road trip back from Madison, Wisconsin, where we attended the National Association of Extension 4-H Youth Development Professionals Association. And it was a great week up in Madison, meeting with over 1,000 of our colleagues from throughout the nation to learn about what has been going on this past year. We had National 4-H Council come and present to us some big thoughts, ideas, but also the networking that we have with our colleagues to see what they do their programs, so we can bring those thoughts back to our own local institutions. So today we just wanted to highlight some of that professional development opportunities. We had roughly 40 Indiana professionals that joined us on this adventure up to Madison, and we just wanted to kind of have a conversation about our professional development opportunities. So Steve, what was a highlight this week?
I think, Kathleen, one of those highlights is just what you talked about, having the chance to interact with those 1,000 or so of our colleagues from across the country, many of whom we have had a chance to interact with at previous conferences, and see what things that they're doing. There's some new programming that they're doing, different ways that they do things that from what we do in Indiana, and not that it's good or bad, it's just different. It's good to hear some of those types of things. I think also you mentioned the 40 people from Purdue that were at the conference. Many of those were first-time participants, and I think it's always exciting to watch them have that experience for the first time. I remember back a long time ago when it was my first time, and it was a little bit overwhelming, but it was also good to have some of our more experienced educators there to be able to help guide them through some of those processes. And it was really a very good conference. The Wisconsin team did a great job putting on the actual conference itself. The NA 4-H YDP board did lots of good things to make sure it happened. It happened very effectively. And so it's always a kind of an uplifting experience, I guess, to be able to see what happens around the country.
Yeah, and I would have to say, as we're coming out of our post-COVID times of where we did a lot of virtual opportunities and staff development, it was great to be back in person and meeting some of those faces that you saw in the little squares that were Brady Bunch experiences. And so networking even with our Indiana professionals in a different context, that we're all going to different breakout sessions, and then when you see each other back in the hallways, you're like, oh, I went to this after school programming opportunity, or oh, I went to this animal science day camp experience that Wisconsin was going to share back with us, and just getting some of those resources. So we're all not reinventing the wheel is always a great highlight to share resources back and forth, but then also highlight what Indiana has to offer. And we had some colleagues that also presented at the conference. We had 2 colleagues that presented on the just lost the county, I'm sorry.
Area 7.
Area 7, thank you. Area 7 Livestock Ambassador Program, and highlighting that, and they got some great feedback, and learned about other states that are doing that as well. So they're going to be continuing to grow that program, and I look forward to hearing about their taking that to the next level, as well as I actually was able to present. I did. So it was. I was able to present with the state leadership team on the board, that we were able to meet with the other state officers. So we had about 45 states represented in one room at one time, learning about how their local state organizations of educators run, how their officer teams are, how they help support their colleagues that maybe weren't able to make it to the conferences, and then also start making that networking opportunities, just like we do at our local county programs. We want youth to come and meet other people and network and make friends and learn about how other people do different things, as you were saying. We do that as a whole, as a nationwide organization. So having this leadership session where it had all the presidents, vice presidents, chairmen of different committees in one room to really think about how they are working with their associations. And I know in Indiana, we're really trying to work on our communications and just learning about how other states like Ohio having some different committees that might help with some of our communications as educators throughout the state. That's what I took back from that meeting. So we were able to not only be attendees, but also be presenters. And that was a definitely highlight for me to meet those colleagues throughout the nation.
Definitely, and I think one of the sessions that I had a chance to attend was talking about youth and adult partnerships. It was from a different state, and just listening to how those young people really had developed a program on their own with adult guidance, but really were the ones that were driving that program. And so far as interviewing the adults that would sit on the team with them.
Oh, wow.
That was the youth responsibility, and I think that's an interesting concept as we think about some of the youth-adult partnerships that we have in Indiana. That may not be appropriate in all cases, but there are times it might be, and I think allowing us to be able to have those youth express their voice in a very strong and very passionate manner is one that is something that we can learn from too. And so as I was going through some of the different sessions, that was one that really stuck out to me as well. I think, Kathleen, you mentioned being on the state leadership team, and what people don't know probably is you are currently a North Central Regional Director going into your second year, and actually get another title added to that this year. So why don't you share a little bit about that one?
Yes, so I am able to be part of the national board, and I am going to be the chairman of all the regional directors. So in our nation, we have 4 regions that each have 2 representatives, regional directors, and so I will help chair that group and represent them on the executive team of the NEA 4-H-YDP National Board. So that is an exciting role that, like you said, I'm in midterm. I've had 1 year and was able to do some Zoom meetings with other states. I zoomed into Kansas and Ohio. And this upcoming year, I already know I'm going to be zooming into Nebraska and actually going to be traveling an in-person meeting to North Dakota. So this is a state relations committee of the regional directors go and are the help gather the voices of our extension professionals out in the nation to bring that voice back to the board, making sure that we are listening to our association members, just like we would ask for our 4-H council members, that they're a township representatives or a city representative, to go back to their communities and know what are those voices and bring that to our 4-H council meetings to know what do our people want. And so I kind of see that's my role, serving to make sure that we are communicating back with our association in an appropriate way, and also raising their voices the opposite way. So 2-way communication is kind of what that role is. And so yes, I did add a kind of additional leadership title to already leadership, but it was nice to be selected by my peers for that role, and I take that job this next year very seriously and look forward to serving in that role. But you, Mr. Steve McKinley, are just finishing leaving the national board. What role were you in this year?
Well, yes, I'm officially done now.
Yeah, okay. On this road trip back.
Yes, we are done. But I served the last 2 years as the NA 4-H-YDP Vice President for Professional Development. So in that role, my responsibility was to help coordinate the efforts of our extension professionals across the country as they delivered professional development opportunities for their peers. And much of that happens at the annual conference that we just attended each year, but there's also opportunities for virtual professional development that go on year-round. And so working with those different professionals as they offered opportunities, as they tried to teach things that they have learned, practices that they have followed that go really well, and be able to share that with others, and that's always an exciting thing. Part of that too was to be able to help coordinate the efforts of some working groups that we have within our professional association. We have some on professional development, we have one also on volunteerism, creating a healthier you, which is really looking at the extension professional and their own health and wellness, and that's obviously very important to be able to take care of ourselves. Another one on virtual professional development, and then some research and evaluation. And so making sure that the committee chairs or working group chairs of each of those had the information that they needed, and to be able to share that back with the board and to coordinate those efforts, part of what I did. And so it was a good experience, and glad that I had it, and also excited to see what the next group of leaders are going to be able to do to build on some of the things that we worked on these last couple of years.
Yeah, because everything's always ever changing, and as we know that term limits allow for new growth on our boards at a local level, and also as a national board, we do have term limits for our leadership to flow through. So you come in and give some great fresh ideas, and then are still active within the organization, but it's time for somebody else to take that light that torch that you've had and pass it on to that next round.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just I think is really important at all levels of our organization throughout 4-H and Extension, that we have those opportunities to have new voices and new leaders, so that we can all grow. It's development for each of us individually that we have, and I know I grew a lot the last couple of years. I know it's also now time for somebody else, and that's a good thing to be able to do. The other really exciting thing I think that happens at our annual professional association are some recognition of our peers, and we had a great opportunity to do that each of the days of our conference. And Kathleen, you were up there a couple of different times, which is pretty cool.
I was
to be able to see Indiana represented through some of the efforts that you've done. So
well,
share with
you.
us a couple of those things that you were able to be recognized for.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to hit what year, but I can say that yes, I do have some hardware in this car as we're traveling back home, but I did not do it alone. So we were able to work on a project called Clover Gaming. It is a Spark Club opportunity that leads youth through a game design to create their own board game at the end of it. It's a Spark Club opportunity of 12 plus hours of content, and it's a curriculum that we now actually are selling nationwide, so selling to our colleagues, and we had a booth there as well this year to promote all of our Indiana products, and Clover Gaming was one of those that was presented. So we were awarded the National Jim Collier Excellence in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Award. And like I said, did not do that alone. My colleagues Malia Hoffman and Rachel Hasselby were also on that team, and we have been working on this project for over 4 years. And sometimes also when you apply for awards, you don't get it that first time.
That's right.
So
doesn't mean you don't stop applying.
That's right. You don't stop applying. As we are teaching our youth resiliency, that you go look back and you tweak things, you add more data, you do it more in different ways, and for some reason the iron struck for us this year to be selected, and we were very honored to walk across the stage and celebrate that accomplishment. I also was able to be awarded the first time ever award on social media packaging and campaign for a campaign that I helped put together with some of my staff members in our office about recruitment, as we're thinking about enrollment and what would motivate people and what kind of advertisement we need to market with our social media platforms. We did a a campaign around PI of 3.14. So we wanted 314 members in November to re-enroll or new enrollments, and we had many different campaigns for that. Had a thermometer that had the markings of how many we needed to reach. We had pie in the face if we got halfway to that goal for myself, and if we reached the whole goal, we also had an additional pie in the face for our junior leader president. So having that call to action, and then we also added a service component with that, and we donated for every enrollment. We got 1 pound of food to our local food banks in November. So it was a well-rounded campaign, and struck with the judges, and was able to select that. So as awards are ever changing, it's kind of exciting to win the first one, but also kind of reminds us to take a pause back in our local programming and think, well, are we awarding things just because that's what we always done, or should we think about new categories, new ways to do it, and also new kind of awards? I know that we're reviewing that in our local county as well, of like, well, are the plaques what the youth want, and have you asked them? So we're actually working on a survey now to even ask about awards. So it is kind of full circle of being awarded something new that then also makes you take pause and think, well, what should we be doing new or different, or sundown some other opportunities? So yes, we did also have some regional winners in Indiana. Our area 2 team members received a regional award, as well as our colleagues in the north of Elkhart County. They received a national award on their newsletter, their little bits that are every Friday that they communicate out with their county volunteers and members. And is that all? Yeah, we were
also
brilliant.
then some of our achievement in service, our
Yes.
distinguished service, meritorious service, as well as a 25-year recognition. And so several of our colleagues from across the state were recognized for those as well. And again, it's always good to be able to be recognized for accomplishments that you've done. It's not the reason that we do this job, but it certainly is. It's nice to be recognized once in a while, and I think that's part of what our professional association allows us to do individually and collectively as a group also.
And also going through those award application process, just like we ask our volunteer or our 4-H members to reflect on and record down with their record sheets of what did they accomplish. Going through this process does have you take pause and see where the growth of your program is happening, what impact you are having, and just going through that process is a good reminder for all of us, winning or not, for us to reflect on where we've been and where we can go in that.
And we've talked quite a bit about things that you and I have gained personally from this, and there's obviously a lot of that we do. But I think the other piece that we need to emphasize here is that we really do have some strong benefits that go back to our local programs, to our statewide programs, to the volunteers that we work with, to the youth and adults in our program. And I think, there's a lot of ways that we can take the information that we've gained, the practices that we've learned about elsewhere, and be able to take that back home. And that's what we now have 40 of us that are doing, as we're all coming back home and getting ready for our new program year here in Indiana. And so what are some of those things that you see that maybe are ways that we can help our program to grow?
Yeah, I think that there's some just great information sessions, great conversations happening right now. Since we were in Wisconsin, there's a lot of cars going back to Indiana, and we know we've talked before we got on this podcast about what we were gaining and gonna back and implement, and knowing that we can't implement all the ideas that we want, but we know who to contact. We know the resources that are out there. We're able to have that personal connection. Maybe we had side conversations with the presenter afterwards, or with our colleagues over dinner, and are able to pick up that phone and have those conversations and ask more questions later as we are really deep diving into implementation of a new program or idea or a process, because there's a lot of great volunteer management pieces out there, resources that there was one about life lessons of how to change a tire, how to teach you to tie a tie. And I know we've had programs like that here in Indiana as well, but how do we put that together and package it? Well, there's some other states that have done that, and I was able to walk through even poster sessions, reading the research that was available to make sure that we're current on what is going on out there in the positive youth development field with research as well. So yeah, it is sometimes, it's been a week. We've been out of the office for a week. Some of us maybe only come up a couple of days, but it's still time out of the office. But it is valuable time away to have those moments of reflection and to know where we're headed, and as we're having these conversations in the back, put that action plan so it doesn't just get put back in the desk and we move on. We really, you got to make a plan, just like at the local level when you're like, oh, I really want to update X, Y, and Z. Well, then we got to put that plan into place right away. So that's what I'm taking back from the benefits of going to the conference.
And I think too, we're coming back rejuvenated. There's the 4-H extension professionals have a lot of really good things that happen in our jobs. There are some times that things get a little frustrating, and it's good to be able to get together and maybe share a little bit about those, but not dwell on it. And what's even better is to be able to learn from each other ways that we can overcome some of those things, and we can just get back to a focus of why we do the job that we're doing. And I'm thinking about some of the young people that we saw as a part of the program at our Wisconsin conference, really the incredible skill set that they have as a part of their 4-H experience from other states, and to be able to hear them really explain what they have gained as a part of their 4-H participation over the years, and to see how they're implementing that now in their future careers. Some are still in school, so how they're taking the things that they have learned and gained from the 4-H participation and being able to use that. And we know that happens throughout Indiana 4-H. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we don't really focus on that because we're so focused on that next rule that we've got to change or that next event that's coming out. But we know that 4-H makes a huge impact, and being able to hear that is a really important thing that we're able to again, help rejuvenate ourselves as we go back home to our programs.
Yes, and just in case our podcasters can hear a little bit of side noise, we were watching some construction workers rebuild a road, and how symbolic of what we're doing. We're not stripping everything back down to nothing of our knowledge. We're adding more layers. We're adding new pavement to what we're doing and smoothing out some of those rough spots that we might have, or a hiccup that I didn't know. I didn't have that tool in my toolbox, but now I do. And the conference theme was Forward Together, and I'm like, how perfect of that as we go back here as Indiana and as our volunteers and our 4-H youth, that we are in this together. So we are forward together, and I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast as we just talk about where our staff development opportunities that we as educators have, but we also will be providing back in Indiana here in the near future.
That's wonderful. And Kathleen, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. We were kind of locked in, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, why not?
Really good to be able to share, and I hope that you all have gained something from that as well, and be able to ask your educator about their participation in our professional association and maybe some things that they've learned along the way as well. So for this edition of the Indiana 4-H Clover Call, this is Steve McKinley.
And Kathleen Bohde.
We'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Interested in learning more about Indiana 4-H? We invite you to visit our website, extension.purdue.edu/4H, or contact your local Purdue Extension office and ask for the 4-H Youth Development Extension Educator. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss an episode. We look forward to joining you again on the next Indiana 4-H Clover Call.